because you know what I came here to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
Danny Dubois has a puncher's chance. He has to stay positive. He has to create a siege mentality around him, his team, his coach, his promoter. They've got to be real with Daniel, but they have to support Daniel. Daniel needs support. The Lorena fight with the Lorena fight. Cliche, Beats always quoting old school, but Ali was on the canvas and nearly knocked out by Henry Cooper in his penultimate fight before challenging Sonny Liston as a 7-1 underdog for the undisputed heavyweight championship. The rest is history. And before you say Daniel doesn't have what Ali has, I agree, but I used to critique Ali a whole lot. What's all this dropping your hands, moving back in straight lines? A lot of people thought it was a joke. He was on the floor against Sonny Banks, Henry Cooper. He won the Doug Jones fight and scraped it on the 10-point must system. Didn't look good against Billy Daniels, but he also had some outstanding performances too. But he was a 7-1 underdog. Do I think Daniel's going to win? No. But it's a good fight for Daniel because he literally goes in there with nothing to lose. And if they can get home territory, maybe perhaps catch Usyk with a little wear and tear. He didn't come out unscathed from the AJ fights, people. I know a lot of people like to paint that narrative. He done very well. And I don't think the second fight was a split decision. I think Usyk won it unanimously. They scored it a split decision, but I think he won it unanimously. That, along with the strain the training camps are putting on his body, being he's not the most biggest heavyweight, says he has to eat a lot more food than he actually wants to eat to fuel his body for the training he has to do to compete with the big boys. Honest, I don't think Daniel deserves a shot. I don't. But he has the shot. The way some are talking online is like the title shot is nailed in. But Martin BAKOLE better talk to Ben Shalom. Go talk to the WBA because he was #1 ranked to get a shot at Daniel Dubois. And Wilder's took his spot now. They put Wilder ahead of BAKOLE. It looks like somebody wants to get that Usyk-Wilder fight done ahead of Daniel Dubois. And from what's going around, the Saudis are willing to pay a lot of money for that fight. It's a good fight. It's a very good fight. If you want the truth, I'll give you the truth. He don't amount to the same dollar amount that Deontay Wilder does in no way, shape or form. At least not now. Frank might have to be persuaded to try and persuade Daniel to take step-aside money. I wonder if Ben promised BAKOLE the Dubois fight to snare him into signing with Boxer. Because I'm assuming that's the reason Billy Nelson and Martin BAKOLE took the deal. I'm assuming that with that #1 ranking. Martin hasn't had much luck. Cyclones, he lost his unbeaten record to Michael Hunter. Cyclones folded. He went to Matchroom, didn't lose a fight, won all his fights. Eddie dropped him, was left in the wilderness. And now he's back on Sky, but with Boxer. And already he's getting outmaneuvered by the sanctioning body politics. Let's see how Ben Shalom plays this. Seems a bit unfair. I mean, Wilder had an eliminator for the WBC strap. All he had to do is beat Andy Ruiz. And what's happened to that? Maybe he doesn't fancy the prize if he beats Ruiz, or taking on Fury for a 4th time. Maybe he's not even confident of beating Andy. Who knows? He didn't seem too enthusiastic about that fight. Andy was always up for it. Here's what I don't get with Deontay Wilder. He went to Saudi Arabia to watch Jake Paul fight Tommy Fury, the brother of Tyson Fury. So there was always going to be a good chance that Tyson was at the event, which he was. So he's acting like he didn't say anything to Fury when he saw him, like he was shocked to see him. It took him by surprise, and because he's in Saudi Arabia, he couldn't say anything. Since when did Saudi Arabia say you can't have a debate with a man if you have a difference of opinion on something? And he says next time when he sees him out, it could be different. What do you mean? What are you going to do, shoot him? And then he says he knows things. Knows a lot of things about Tyson being a cheater. Well, why doesn't he say what he knows about Fury being a cheater? He's not going to say anything because he knows he's going to look stupid. What, egg weights? Floppy glove? I think he was using gypsy magic. Yes, he did say that. Everyone's going to just laugh at what he has to say. And the whole thing is just crazy, man. Like, then you had John. Said Tyson's a great boxer, but I didn't breed a son like me. He's saying he would have punched Deontay Wilder in his mouth. He's a horrible person. I don't know, maybe... No, I won't say what I was going to say. But what's all the blame game with the likes of John Fury and Wilder, you're still trying to attribute some blame that there was conspiracies at hand why you lost to Fury. He cheated. And then John Fury wants Tyson Fury to sack Sugar Hill because he wouldn't corroborate their bullshit alibis to get out of the Usyk fight. Why don't you take accountability? I would make a case that the scorecards were a little wide, but I have no doubt that Robeisy Ramirez beat Isaac DOGBOE in a decent fight. Despite DOGBOE's protests, he did have his moments, stunned Ramirez a couple of times, but the range, movement, and punch picking from Robeisy, good fight though, good fight. I think Isaac couldn't close down the ground quick enough, and he couldn't pin Robeisy on the ropes for any sustainable period to change the outcome, but it was a good fight. Ramirez did it. He did it. After a poor start to his career, he became champion. DOGBOE protested the verdict and he protested the knockdown in the last round, but he kind of walked in to the move. He was made to miss and then countered by a left, which didn't need to be powerful because he was off balance, and it was a legit knockdown, and that just sealed the win right there. Nice move by the Cuban. It was like a matador maneuver, and he could be very hard to beat as champion. DOGBOE, he showed that he's not finished. It depends how much he wants it still. It looks like he's still got a little something to offer. Made it a good fight. He's still young. He ran out of ideas a little, like when he switched to southpaw briefly during the fight. That was because he was struggling to make the impact he wanted to make on the fight. Robeisy, it looks like he could make some defenses at feather and could possibly go up to super feather and maybe even lightweight. He has the potential. Diego Pacheco on Hector Berlanga. He's with Matchroom now. No reason why that fight shouldn't happen. Diego Pacheco believes his promoter has an appealing in-house match on his hands. He's 22 years of age. He's just coming off a dominant stoppage over Jack Cullen at the Echo Arena in Liverpool, and he went down very well with the British boxing fraternity. You know what I mean? He was asked about a potential fight with fellow 168-pounder Edgar Berlanga, who, like Pacheco, is signed to Matchroom Boxing. Pacheco, very enthusiastic. He says, I think in a few fights the Berlanga fight will happen. He's a great fighter, said Pacheco. Pacheco said he himself is a great fighter. As long as everyone wants to see that fight and everyone asks for that fight, I don't see why that shouldn't happen. Berlanga, 25 years of age. Pacheco, 22 years of age. Will he get that fight? One of the reasons Berlanga signed to Matchroom was to potentially track down a Canelo fight. That's a cash-out fight, really, isn't it? The Pacheco fight is very dangerous for Berlanga. Very dangerous. Could mess up that Canelo bag for Berlanga. He could. Diego is 18-0 with 15 inside the limit. 6'4", 79-inch reach. Born and raised in Cali, but, he's Mexican. Edgar Berlanga, 6'1", 73-inch reach. 20-0, 16 inside the distance. Some say he's not fulfilling his early potential, but he's New York, but essentially it's Puerto Rico versus Mexico. It's Puerto Rico versus Mexico, New York versus Cali. It's a hot fight. It's a very hot fight. Will Eddie propose that to the two parties, or would he prefer to make that when one of them has got a strap, a sanctioning body strap? Interesting. I want to hear what Berlanga's got to say in reply. So now they're talking about Crawford and Spence. Crawford and Spence. June the 17th.
I don't know if it's true.
Or too good to be true.
Nah, sorry. I can't fuck with this fight. I have to wait until I see something more concrete. I can't give it the airtime.
For some reason or another, the fight didn't get made. These guys are prize fighters, and they fight for money. The money that was on the table, it was unbelievable to me that the fight couldn't get made. And again, I came in late. I came in the 11th hour where there were already talks, discussions, percentages, promises. But regardless of that,
to be a Tyson Fury fan is a total different mentality. Not only did he price himself out of the fight, depriving the fans of the undisputed heavyweight championship, he fucked up Usyk's money as well. And you guys are cool with that. And then you want to crown him as the best of his era. That's unfair to say that he's better than Usyk when Usyk wanted to become undisputed and he didn't. That's unfair. That's unfair. It wouldn't matter to me if your eye test was 100% on the money, which it can't be, or you had all the experts in your favour saying Tyson would win. It wouldn't matter. You got to make the fight and you got to fight the fight. Everybody deserves a crack at competing, from the lower top 10 to the upper top 10 to the champions. And that includes Frank Sanchez, who is conveniently shoved out of conversations all the time.
I'll be dropping it on my Discord as soon as it's all announced and all confirmed, signed, sealed and delivered. June the 3rd, Abu Dhabi is the date. Just waiting to confirm opponent.
People are saying Eddie's willing to promote a dirty athlete.
Do me a favour.
June the 3rd, Abu Dhabi, waiting for the opponent's announcement. Will it be Eubank? Conor hasn't fought for a long time, and most of it is due to the issue he's had. So he's already been penalised by not being able to earn. I have no problem with anyone who thinks he's guilty, none at all, right? That's your opinion. But if anyone thinks that I'm going to jump up and support him not being able to earn a living,
I'm not going to be able to do.
Yeah, he passed away, didn't he? Yeah, Ken passed away, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, R.I.P. to him, man.
Yeah.
Great lightweight fighter.
Did his thing, man. Beat Laguna and Navarro for the belts. He beat Laguna for the WBA, Navarro for the WBC.
Who's the Scottish guy he had?
He got stripped. He had some contractual issues. He had to give up the WBC belt. The WBA was not recognised by the board, so he couldn't defend his belts over here, which was really effed up, really messed up. His manager, Eddie Thomas, he handled his affairs. And let me tell you how corrupt the British Boxing Board of Control is. Now I'm talking, right? What's the guy's name? I forgot his name, right? But a representative of the British Boxing Board of Control stepped to Eddie Thomas and said, you would be better off if you let Ken sign up with Mickey Duff, Astaire, and Barrett, the cartel. And then you'd be able to get on the Royal Albert Hall shows and the Wembley shows, etc., etc. They didn't do it, so it was difficult for them to make moves. Eventually, Ken signed up with them, and he had, I think Astaire managed his affairs, and then he started to get a few fights over there. And, the corruption, he went through a lot of corruption in his career, man. A lot of corruption. People don't know about it. He had to, listen, after he won the British title, right? Before he won world titles, he was so frustrated, because that's when they started trying to get heavy on him around there, because he was a hot prospect. So they were trying to get him over to the cartel. He actually handed his British license in to the board because of the corruption.
I'm surprised that you mentioned Jim Watt, man. A really good southpaw fighter from the UK back in the day. Yeah, that's why I like talking to you guys, because you guys, Beats, you bring people over here who know what they're talking about.
Great commentator on ITV World of Sport.
Yeah.
He used to do loads of commentary for us back in the 80s.
He did.
Right?
He did.
He was a dirty fighter, though.
He fought Sean O'Grady. He fought Alexis Arguello. Yeah, Alexis. He fought a lot of guys, man.
When he fought Sean O'Grady, Sean O'Grady was beating the crap out of him, right? And Sean O'Grady was getting death threats in Scotland before the fight, like terroristic death threats to his family, and he was beating the crap out of Jim Watt. And Jim was, if you see how blatant the headbutts were, deliberate headbutts, crashing these headbutts into his face. Yeah, and he got away with them.
He fought. Sean O'Grady fight was over in the UK, right?
Yeah, it was in Scotland.
It was in the UK.
It was in Scotland. Yeah, in Scotland. Yeah, very dirty. Very dirty. Very.
I know that. I know Buchanan himself. I know he had a few fights over in America too, for a little while.
Yeah, he fought at the MSG quite a bit. He fought Carlos Ortiz
on the card.
Yeah.
What fight was that?
Carlos Ortiz. You're talking about the Ortiz fight. I think that was from the Ali in the car.
Yeah.
Ortiz, the Carlos Ortiz fight might have been.
Yeah. And that's what he had to fight abroad, man. That's what he had to do because of the corruption.
Yeah, he got back and forth. He got all over the world pretty much, man. I'm sorry to hear that he's gone, man. I only heard about that just a few hours ago.
He had a horrible life, man. The alcoholism was really bad with him. He got himself into some horrible situations, which I'm not even going to bring up. He had to resort to unlicensed boxing and stuff as well, man. When times got hard, He was trying to come back when he was all 50 and 60 as well. Yeah.
And some people say he had the CTE and you know, chronic traumatic enteropathy and, you know, traumatic.
He fought too long as it was. He had no business fighting until the 1980s, and he went all the way into the 80s, and that's where he picked up a lot of his losses too.
Yeah.
In his last few fights, man, I think he might have lost his last 5 or 6 fights or something, man.
Well, he needed the dough. He had to fight, man. Like,
yeah,
you know, if he was able to defend that WBA belt in Scotland, he would have made a fortune at the time. He would have made a fortune. You know?
Right.
But the British Boxing Board of Control, it was around, when the WBC started, when was that? About 63?
63.
Right,
Yep.
63. Britain got behind the WBC. That was their sanctioning body, right? And that's partly some of the reason why they still held Ali as champion when he was in exile, you know, because WBA belt, man, they didn't recognize it.
They fucked up in the early 60s. I think that move they made with stripping Ali is what made the WBC come to age, really. Because the WBC stuck with them. And you're right, the British Board of Boxing Control did stick with the WBC in the early 60s. Well, the WBC basically stuck with the British Board of Boxing Control.
It is with deep sadness that we announce that Scottish boxing icon Ken Buchanan dies aged 77, a year after dementia diagnosis. Ken Buchanan, who was Scotland's first undisputed world champion, has passed away at the age of 77 a year after his son confirmed he had been diagnosed with dementia.
Buchanan, a brilliant boxer, won his first 33 professional fights. His first loss coming to the great Roberto Duran, where he lost his title, and retired in 1982 with a record of 61-9, including 27 wins by knockout. He lost his title to Duran in the 13th round at the MSG. Basically, it was the elbows and the headbutts, and then he caught that low blow, and he collapsed to the canvas. There was a swelling in his right testicle, extreme pain. He urinated blood for days. The punch dented his protector, and the metal burst into his right testicle. Duran dismissed Buchanan's claims of a low blow. A lot of boxers tried to make you think they were hit low because they were losing. Duran says he won legally. Buchanan said that even up until recently, just a few years ago, that he'd still get pain from his right testicle. It's a shame the UK boxing fans didn't get to share more of his world title exploits than they did, but the politics hindered that. But nevertheless, an all-time UK great who was forced to fight abroad for massive periods of his career when he was in his prime. Ken Buchanan, big up Tone for passing the information on to me.
But again, I'm not being rude, but I don't think David Adelaye's profile is through the roof fighting at York Hall. Tonight, more people watch Fabio Wardley than watched David Adeley's last fight, probably about 5 times as many. And he did it in front of 18,000 at the O2. Not in front of 800 at York Hall. So, and it was a small show on BT on Friday night. I know the numbers. Pretty, not impressive at all. But I think he's a good fighter. And I love the fight. And I love that he turns up at the press conference. He's got more publicity turning up at a DAZN press conference than he's got his entire career.
Aside from a title belt being attached to that main event on Saturday, it was like a world title event. When do you see a non-title fight? 20,000 people turned up. O2 sold out. And the amount of celebrities that turned out as well. I think Frank Warren sent David Adeleye to the O2 as much as David did it off his own back. So he came there to talk up a potential British title fight with Fabio Wardley, which I don't think he's prepped for yet. He lost to Sokolowski, in my opinion, and what has he done since? Who's he fought since? What are the improvements he's made to make me think he can beat Fabio Wardley? Why didn't he fight Sokolowski again? It's an easy fight to make. But it was good publicity, wasn't it? Fabio had a very interesting fight against Michael Coffie. Coffie showed a few veteran moves that he's learnt from the gyms of America. He did try and roll Fabio's powerful right hand, and he did get caught on the ropes. Fabio fired off some shots, a lot of which Coffie blocked. And I don't recognise boxing no more. I don't recognise it with them stoppages. What was Howard Foster playing at? Why isn't it being reviewed? I'm not saying change the result. That would be unfair on Fabio. You know, he was on course to get the stoppage, perhaps. But there's no way that fight should have been stopped. He done that in the Carl-Froch-George Groves fight, the first fight. I would argue this one was even worse. I've seen him stop a few more domestic fights like that as well. And he's been calling some of his decisions when he's judged fights as well. It is what it is though. Coffie came out first round southpaw, which seemed odd to me because traditionally the coaches would tell you the straight right is a great punch against the southpaw, and Fabio landed one very early and it rocked Coffie into the ropes. But Coffie done some nice work on the ropes. He really did, like bouncing off the ropes, coming back with neat little jabs and his own backhand. And noticeably, after he got caught, he switched back to orthodox. It was a chess match for the most part, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that kind of boxing, that thinking man's boxing. They were both working behind their feints and their jabs. Fabio didn't just rush in, but he was mainly the aggressor, as Coffie chose to use flashy defensive shoulder rolls and come back with counters and jabs. Wardley landed well to the body and got his own jab off too. Coffie done some neat work, but his output was just too low. It was just too low. And like Andy Lee said, he reminds me of a sparring partner who knows how to protect himself. And Fabio pursued him, looking to unload powerful punches. Coffie showed some good defense, but not much more than the occasional counter punch. And away from home, it's not the ideal tactics. Coffie did start round 3 very aggressively, pinning Fabio in the corner, forcing him to clinch as he unloaded big punches from both hands, and that was way more impressive. But he soon went back into defensive posture, and Fabio claimed the ring center again. Coffie threw out the occasional jab, and a pattern was developing. Coffie came in 260 plus, 36 years of age, and he was fighting open mouth, tiring a little, but was still giving Fabio some of the best rounds he's had as a pro. And you could arguably give Coffie the third round. Ben Davison in Fabio's corner was getting very animated after the third. In the fourth, both men were still working behind them feints. Fabio managed to get that big right hand off and started teeing off on Coffie. Coffie was definitely buzzed with his back to the ropes. Some of the punches got through. Coffie rolled some of them. And then Howard Foster spot a perfectly good fight. I don't know why he did it. It really pissed me off, to be honest. And a lot of other people felt the same way. Michael Coffie, obviously outraged by Howard Foster's stoppage. Disappointed, as he should be. He was still in the fight. But the British champion moves on. What's next? I wouldn't mind seeing him in against a Jermaine Franklin. Some may think that's a little too advanced for him. I don't know. Although Franklin spoke about not fighting British fighters in Britain no more. I didn't understand that logic at all, because, okay, he was saying AJ held him and the referee did nothing, but when he held AJ, the referee was all over him. I understand that, but you've got 2 massive paydays that you couldn't get in America, and you're not a draw in America where you're going to get Fabio Wardley to go over there, unless Bob Arum signs you or Al Heyman. And if he was to sign to any of them, let's say you're fighting Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, or those they have as a high priority in the heavyweight division. Do you think the referees and the judges are going to be on your side? No. I agree with Tony Bellew. Howard Foster kind of stole Fabio's moment, you know. People are looking at the Fraser Clark fight, even though ADELEYE has more pro fights. I think Fraser Clark, with the amateur pedigree, bronze medalist, is the one they're looking at. Is Fraser ready for that next fight? Or maybe have one more and then go into that fight? I like the British title picture though, with Fabio as champion, Fraser looking to take what's Fab's, ADELEYE waiting in the wings for a shot. Is bubbling up nicely. I don't think Daniel Dubois is above that level right now. I really don't. What's he done that Fabio hasn't done? Has he beat better opponents than Fabio? I don't think he has. And don't get me wrong, I'm not just going to rubbish Daniel. I think he's got a chance of beating Fabio or Fraser or ADELEYE.